I'm a retired parliamentarian. Not long ago, my friend and former colleague at the European Parliament, sent me an article he had published in the Aspen Review. Two questions with regard to this. First of all, he's deploring the very deep polarization among the Hungarian people. And my first question relates to that. How does the Prime Minister see upon his role? Are you committed to try to mediate and overcome this cleavage? Because a divided country is never a very strong country. And my second question is, you touched upon some values. You said strong moral identity is very important, and you also referred to the common basic values of the acquis communautaire. In his article, Professor Schöpflin said that Hungary needs Hungarian solutions, and he left me with a feeling that Europe doesn't today provide the right ideals, the right values. I was somewhat surprised because I thought I know this man very well. Could you please elaborate on that?
Rather complicated question, anyway. First of all, probably on the map you have just described here on conflicting the character of the Hungarian political community, the situation psychologically, psychological point of view. First of all, it's a very interesting question. But I was not interested in that question at all in 2010 May when we won the election. Because, number one request to a political leader to have the proper list of the difficulties and challenges, to make the proper role. The number one challenge was not that capital. The number one challenge in Hungary was in 2010 to pull back the country from the very end of the cliff. Probably you do not remember that because it's not your personal matter, but the first country which has collapsed in the European Union, financially I mean, was not the Greeks. It was Hungary. It happened in 2008. So Hungary was the first country which financially collapsed, and only outside financial injections helped us to survive. And the situation in 2010 was that the budget deficit, let's say the end of May, it was minus 7.2. And I went to Brussels immediately after the election, and I asked for the same appeasement, may I say. What is very general and well known nowadays, let's say to the French, the Spanish, to the Portuguese, and many countries who are not able to curb down the budget deficit to a certain level, which is requested by the European Union. So, I was rejected, simply and flatly. They said, no, you must keep. So therefore, that kind of psychological issue was not on the high agenda of my movement. So I went back to Hungary, and in 6 months, we decreased the budget deficit from minus 7.2 to minus 4.2. Can you imagine that? A reduction of budget deficit in 6 months by 3%. So you can imagine. So that was more important for me, that that kind of very interesting and electrifying vision on how the Hungarians are divided or not, and what. So it saved the country maybe very slightly. So that financially, that was the problem. The second point is polarization. So we have to be very careful with the Central European countries when you describe them among the Hungary, because by blood we are probably the most fighting character in Central Europe, as divided. First of all, history. We had 45 years of communist dictatorship. which is not the policy of reconciliation. Policy of communism based on deleting of certain social stratas, social groups, private property, democracy, all rights to be involved in public affairs and so on. So therefore, quite natural that after the collapse of communist regime, the first idea is not how to live peacefully with ex-communists. So therefore, the situation was not, let's say, at the beginning of the 90s, was very much favorable for that kind of, social contract or something like that, which we always accept in Hungary as the high level of requirement, and we would like to get kind of social cohesion and cooperation being not divided, especially because it's a Christian country and being not divided is the core of the Christian idea about society, but still because of history is difficult. So therefore, what we could do now in Hungary is to organize rather a stable political system, which is stable enough not to be destroyed by that kind of polarization in the system. But we have to be very clear on that. Hungary is the only country, probably Bulgaria is considered, where the ex-communist party survived, reshaped itself as a social democratic something, and remained legitimate part of the whole political discussion. Not in any other country of Central Europe would it happen. Look at Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and so on, even in Romania. So therefore, to reach a point when politically everything is more concentrating on forming a unity, it takes time. So therefore, you are right. Even I can say more, that it's very common, sadly anyway, that when an argument coming from the left angle of the political arena, they are described bloody communists, and when an argument coming from the angle of the right angle of the arena, described as fascists. And the discussion is over, because after that, what the hell we can say to each other. So that kind of difficulties is still with us. It's getting better and better as a process, as an improving, but still it's part of the public discussion character. What our member of the European Parliament, George Shoflin, said on values. Prior to speak on values, may I just mention one thesis again, which I try to elaborate here. So we have to be aware of the fact that there are two groups of the countries inside the European Union. We don't like it, but this is the fact. One club is the club of the Eurozone countries, and the other club of those countries who are not members of the Eurozone. Because having your own currency provides totally different perspectives than the perspectives of having no your own currency. So that's the basic difference between the situation of Finland and Hungary. Let's say your own form of offering economically is different compared to Hungary and those who have own currency. Therefore, the first question is whether the European Union, which is getting stronger and stronger pressure on all of us, would like to create a common European economic policy, not just on our key, free trade regulation, but more political, financial, and economic, let's say, cooperation or integration. The question is whether reasonable or not to have the same request to those countries who belong to the European Union, to the Eurozone, and those who are not. I don't think so. It's obvious that we have difficult economic challenges, let's say in Holland, and in Dutch, let's say in Sweden, and in Hungary. Is there anybody who could think that the same economic measures would be equally good for those three countries? It's not more logical to say that because the situation of the Dutch, who are in the Eurozone, the situation of the Swedish, who are out but quite well, and the Hungarians who are out of the Eurozone, but the situation is not well at all. Should apply the main economic measures? Does it have any sense? I don't think so. So therefore, the main question is whether we are able to run a policy which first of all tries to help the Eurozone countries to shape a more integrated fiscal and economic planning policy, but at the same time realizing the differences outside the Eurozone, whether we are able to let more room for economic mix for putting together process of the countries like Hungary. And this is the situation we are living in. So it's a real difficult challenge. On values, the value discussion, to be more understandable, has reached its peak at the moment that Hungary decided to establish a new constitution, which, just among us, we have to admit, quite a strange idea. 2013 to create a new constitution. Nobody else is doing that. Why the Hungarians doing so? Create a constitution is always a process of a lot of disputes and discussions, even value discussions, which is not in the direction of how to create a political landscape we just have described, and which is very common here in Finland, based more on agreement. So the answer is very clear. Hungary was the only country of the ex-communist countries who was not able to create a new constitution after the collapse of communist regime. The Polish done so. The Czechish, Slovakian, the Romanian, the Bulgarian, even the Kosovo people created their new constitution. Only Hungary is the country which was not able to do so. We modified several times the constitution, but the title of the constitution, which is very much telling about the story, was a certain number of Hungarian constitution from 49, bloody communist period. And there was no two-thirds majority in the last more than 20 years in the Hungarian parliament to agree how to create a new constitution, because constitution needs two-thirds majority. In the Hungarian legal system, referendum is impossible about the constitution. It must be managed by the parliament. But there was no two-thirds majority. So we have waited for more than 20 years to have a moment when people decided as voters to create a two-thirds majority in the parliament, which is able to provide a new constitution. So because of the timing, that created a lot of anxiety. If it would have happened, let's say 10 years earlier, when the Polish and others done so, nobody would have created not even a single voice about it. But this is the Hungarian story. The next point is on values. So, when you create a constitution, you have to say something about values. You have to say something about your history. You have to say something about what does it mean to be a Hungarian. How do you understand the history? About something whether you think that there's a mission of your nation, or we just living, and dying out, or we have something to be done, because that's our job as a nation. So therefore, because of the constitution, the whole value discussions come up to the surface. Anyway, the discussion was very similar to the European discussions several years earlier, when the attempt to create the European constitution arose. Whether Christianity should be mentioned in the constitution, in Europe, in Hungary, or not. It's mentioned in one context. What kind of value should be the number one, which is, let's say, the organizing point of view of the whole regulation system of the Constitution? And the Hungarians decided that this is human dignity. So when human dignity is defined, the question is coming up, how do you understand human dignity? And human dignity is only something which belongs to the individuals or to the communities as well. Is there any human dignity for the communities as well, or not, like minorities, religious groups, and so on and so on. So all that kind of discussion came. What do you think about history? If you have 45 years in communist system, and you create a new constitution, you have to say something about it. You can't do that, forget about it. It's not an issue for the future. because it's efficient. So you have to face-to-face say something about dictatorship, and of those who have done, and the people who have not defaulted, and whatsoever. So therefore, I understand that it's really strange, but all these questions, instead of running the discussions, let's say 20 or 15 years earlier, just because of the political circumstances, have to move just now. So this is the reason why these kind of issues come to the surface. So that's part of understanding of the Hungarian political life.
Thank you.
Ladies first.
Thank you, Prime Minister Orbán, for your comments. I'm a visiting scholar at the Alexandria Institute in Canada, where, as you may know, we have a very large immigrant Hungarian population. I just wanted to make a comment and a question about your repeated mention about Hungary being a Christian country and an important value for its constitutional faith. I come from a country where we tend to find values not according to religion, but much more generically. And it seems to me that given Hungary's future and given Europe's future is a much more multicultural place and a place where we must welcome and religious minorities must be included. Not to mention we have significant religious minorities that have always been part of Hungary's past. Why this emphasis on Christianity, since it seems to be, in essence, pretty divisive form of the faith?
Okay, maybe we'll give it back. Ask that.
First, thank you for your very impressive presentation, Mr. Prime Minister. You announced approximately 1 year ago that Hungary now rejects the welfare state model and starts to implement social model based on working, hard working, entrepreneurship, employment, and so on. You know, in Finland we have 8 parties in our parliament, and all those announced to support this state welfare model or Nordic model, so to say. At the same time, they also underline quite much that we have to increase working and to be more competitive and increase employment and entrepreneurship and so on. But at least at this time, they try to be very much favoring this Nordic model. My question is that, could you describe shortly what is the significance of this new implementation to ordinary Hungarian people? If you say that you have abandoned this welfare state model and implemented now model based on working, what does it mean to ordinary Hungarian people?
So first of all, you should not be doctriner. Because to be doctriner, having a doctrine point of view to approach the point, can mislead us. So I can't say that what I'm expressing here is definitely good for Finland or could be useful or usable even in the internal Finnish discussion, because the situation of Finland is rather difficult from Hungary. Just to mention one point, the average income in Hungary monthly, doesn't mean the average, in net term, it's 500 euros. And the pension is, let's say, 300 euros per month. So, we have some ideas on that sociological basis, so we must be very careful to say whether it is usable, what I'm speaking about, in a country which you have probably 4 times, 10 times, I don't know exactly how many higher income in terms of salaries and pensions as well. So, but on Hungary, how that kind of strange post-communist welfare structure ended in Hungary. In Hungary, we have 8 million people who who has right to vote out of 10 million. And approximately we have 3,800,000 people who regularly have jobs. So it's quite low anyway. The activity rate in Hungary is rather low. Those who are working have jobs. Working the most in Europe, the number one. But many of the society does not work at all. Therefore, the activity rate is rather low. But those who are working, they are doing something. And in 2010, out of 3,800,000 people who had jobs, only 1,800,000 paid tax. So Hungary was a country in 2010, 10 million people and 1.8 million taxpayers maintain the country. Whether we like it, I mean, welfare state or not, it's obvious that 1.8 million taxpayers cannot maintain a 10 million people country. And we understand it as a result of the post-communist welfare structure and we organized our society in the last 20 years. So it was obvious that it's not maintained. That's the reason why we created the expression, instead of post-communist welfare state, we need a third-class state. What does it mean for the ordinary citizens? The first is that we have a flat tax system, because we said we would not like to get your money out from your pocket when you are earning, but rather when you spend it. So therefore, the income tax is 16% flat. But VAT is the highest in Europe, 27%. So we rather tax the people when they spend the money and not when they earn it, because we would like the reason to earn more and more and more. Go to work and earn money. So that's one point. The second is that we do not tolerate unemployment. At least we don't tolerate the counter motivations against labor in the system. Now the unemployment period in Hungary, unemployment aid period, which is paid unemployment, paid is 3 months. That's all. And if, even in 3 months, you are provided and offered by public jobs, which is organized by the local government, and you reject it, you can't get even one single penny, which is very tough. And social aid, which related to the kids, and if your kid is obliged to go to school, and you don't send your kids to the school, you can't get any social aid. In a village house, if you're around, I mean the neighborhood of your house, which is yours, is not properly organized and is in disorder, you know, you can't get any social aid from the local government. It's tough. It's very tough. I do not like to say it's easy. But anyway, if you are not doing that, there is no chance to create a country from 1.8 million taxpayers to the country of 5 million taxpayers, because my target is to have 5 million taxpayers. If we have 5 million taxpayers out of 10 million, the country is okay. But this is very clear that we have to reach that point somehow. We have to motivate the people, but at the same time we have to regulate the life. So that's about the everyday life.